trust yourself as well and trust processes, and just be brave, because actually braveness does pay off, and actually you are stronger than you think, stronger than you realise.
Welcome to another episode of the Burnt Chef Journal, hosted by myself, Chris Hall, the founder of the Burnt Chef Project. This week, Candice Brown joins us to talk about her own experiences with mental health and also how she went from winning Great British Bake Off to owning her own pub within the hospitality industry and the effects that COVID has had on her and her business. I love chatting to Candice. She's a breath of fresh air when it comes to this particular subject, and I really hope that you too enjoyed this conversation.
Lamb Weston are your partner in potatoes. We're a leading global frozen potato manufacturing business with a wealth of experience in offering a portfolio of high-end and quality products on a consistent basis. We supply the pub, casual dining, QSR sectors. We believe in wellbeing through potatoes, and we are very proud to support the Burnt Chef Project, here to offer our support and help for those that need it and any solutions that you need for you and your business.
I mean, I don't know much about you, Candice, if I'm honest, other than what we've seen and what you and I have sort of briefly discussed over social media. And I would love to know a little bit, what was your life before this like, and like what brought you into this like profession? And, I mean, because it must have been such a change, hey?
Yeah, it was just, oh my gosh, it was just like, it was insane, just mental. I think sort of background wise, mum and dad had always run pubs. So we were brought up in pubs. I suppose we were brought up in the hospitality industry. So it's, if anyone has it, it's literally running through my blood. Mum and dad run pubs for 25 years. So I think they come out of the last one when I was maybe 20. I was at uni. So we were really brought up in and around that. And it just, it was just something we'd kind of lived through. Good pubs, bad pubs, rough as arsehole pubs. I mean, like being locked in the cellar, me, mum, and my sister, and being locked in the cellar because it was like a Western upstairs kind of thing, and incredible pubs and food pubs and just wet pubs and things like that. So we've seen it all and we loved it, and mum and dad loved it. And then obviously came out, I done various jobs. I was a air hostess, which people always go, oh, shock. I mean, I am literally, if any job didn't suit me.
Yeah.
But actually, when I did it, I'd always wanted to be an air hostess when I was younger. When I did it, it was absolutely atrocious. Am I allowed to swear? Am I all right swearing? Because they accidentally fall out sometimes. A lot of the time.
Go for it. You unleashed the potty mouth.
Okay, it was fucking awful, like being an air hostess. So I did that for a little while, and then my love was always PE and sport and food and stuff like that. So I was a PE teacher, and just loved baking. Really, really loved baking, loved cooking. And then, that little show called The Bake Off, I used to watch avidly. Loved the show. Was struggling a little bit kind of mentally, and cooking and baking was always my go-to thing. My mates kind of recognised, my best mate Anna would kind of recognise that if I was baking and there was a lot of it going on, she'd be like, right, okay, I'll be over. Something wasn't quite right in my head, and that meant that was me in my area and my space, which was my baking space. I entered a couple of times actually, not because I thought I was any good, but just because I loved the show and I thought I'd really like to be part of that. And then, I don't know what the fuck happened, but I managed to win it. And then everything else kind of, I don't know, kicked off, and I was able to do food as my I suppose my job. And then just over 2 years ago, me and my brother went full circle and decided to buy a pub. I mean, what the fuck? My mum and dad were like, oh, right, go on, good one.
Yeah, you had the choice to do anything, and then you've gone and done this.
I mean, we were looking at other things. We were looking at kind of spaces. We'd seen this old bank, and the people that were trying to sort it out, or the people that were in charge of leasing it or letting it or whatever they were doing, were just such art. They were real like arseholes, and they really looked down on me and my brother, and they made a couple of digs at me about certain things. And I was just like, I'm not having that. I'm not that sort of person. Don't try and make me and my brother look silly. We know what we're doing. We're not stupids. And then randomly we went and saw the the pub. And as soon as we pulled into the car park, I went, oh my God, I love it. My brother went, don't do that. And yeah, we put in an offer that day, and here we are 2 years later, shut. Fucking brilliant. Hooray.
Yeah, COVID.
What a year.
Who would have thought it, hey? And then for hospitality to get absolutely shafted during the whole thing as well.
Literally, I mean, unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. I understand things had to be put in place, but I'm so angry at, I don't know, the blame last year, especially that blame that got put on hospitality, when literally we were busting our asses to do things properly and spending money to not even break even a lot of the time, because numbers going in was slashed, what we were doing was slashed, and just still the blame, the hospitality, that blame. And it was like, hang on, there's no proven evidence. We've been in lockdown for how many months now, and things were still rising. Like, that was hard. That was heartbreaking. There was a lot of tears over that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sheer sense of helplessness as well, because it doesn't matter what you say, what you think. No, like, they don't listen to us. They just make the rules up and then off you go.
Literally. And that's how I am. Like, people, how have you dealt with it? I'm like, I listen to what I'm told and we do it. But I think that one before Christmas, when we went into all the tiers, and they said we'd gone into tier 4, we'd gone from tier 2 to tier 4 in a day and a half. And I was driving back to the pub. I'd heard it on the news, and I cried all the way back, and I pulled up at the pub and I could see my dad and my brother on the roof, because obviously during lockdown, we're building an extension. Sure, of course, it's not enough to worry about. And I could see them, and they've been busting their asses to get like this extension bit done and finished, and working so hard. And I just looked at them on the roof, and I couldn't breathe for tears. And just that absolute, we've got to shut in a day and a half. We've got everything sorted for Christmas, and I don't think my brother said 2 words to me that day, because he just was just like, I don't know what to fucking say. That was probably the worst I felt. That was like, okay. And since then it's just been right. Okay. They tell us what to do and we do it. So
we haven't got much of a say. I mean, the government, I know Rishi announced yesterday that we'd get a little bit more additional support in terms of VAT cuts, furlough scheme, but still it's we're going to have to restart again at some stage. And it's also, I mean, by the time this comes out, we might have already restarted, actually, I think, potentially.
Well, yeah, it's just, I mean, you couldn't write it, could you? Like, it's one of those things, I think, at the beginning, I said to my dad, it's nothing I thought I'd see in my lifetime. And he said, bloody hell, like, it's interesting though, like one of my brother's best mates, he said his nan and granddad were talking about different things. And they said that they'd kind of gone through one of the wars and all the rationing and everything. And they said this was just this is so much worse, just sheerly because of the isolation and the loneliness, and was just, and that was like a wow. Okay. And you can see it. I had to make a massive step last year and kind of change, because I did the first lockdown on my own in the pub in the middle of nowhere, and it nearly broke me. It nearly fucking broke me. Like, it was, I mean, the pub is in the middle of nowhere, and I was by myself, and it was beyond tough.
How long did it take you to realise into lockdown that it wasn't going well in terms of your mental health?
So mental health is something I've always I've struggled with for years. So it's not something really I've spoken about. I spoke about it once with Frankie just over a year ago, and people were like, oh, okay. And then people that have been horrible to me on Bake Off were like, oh, we're really sorry for being horrible. I'm like, yeah, hurts, doesn't it? But I've just written my second book, and I talk very openly about it. So I suffer with clinical depression, PTSD, and chronic phobia. I recently got diagnosed with ADHD as well, hence disorganisation, forgetfulness, and all that sort. It makes a lot of sense. Anyone that knows me is all like, not that we didn't know, but I'm like, yeah. So it's kind of been up and down. I had a very difficult year last year, the hardest of my life, in fact. How the fuck I'm still going, I don't know. But yeah, it was just a lot. It was a lot to take in. It was a lot to deal with. And then obviously lockdown and stuff, and the issue with staff. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do? And just, my brother's very much like, right, okay, we'll do this, this and this. And I'm like, and then it was kind of, I don't know, we sort of had issues with staff and things like that. So we had a chef, and then the chef left. and it was down to me to do all the food, all the cooking. So we did a takeaway, and I was just doing all the food, all the cooking. I'd never done that before. I'm not a chef, and one of the things I do say is I'm not a chef, and I would hate to put myself alongside people. I know you had Nathan Outlaw on recently, and the thought of someone like me going, "Oh, I'm a chef," next to him, it's like, and like I couldn't do that. It makes me go, look, I fanny around with cake, I mess about with food, and I'm lucky enough to do that as a job now. But I had to then do that. I had to do that 6 days a week, and that was my focus. But it was at one point, it was me, my brother and Sophie, and we were running and trying to keep the pub going, just doing that. And that was, I mean, they kept me going, because that was, come on, up you get, and it was right into the kitchen, go. But on those days or the nights when we were shut, I was like, okay. And towards sort of the end of the year, when I kind of said, I don't know if I can do this on my own if lockdown happens again, and everyone was going, no, lockdown's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen. Yeah. And luckily I kind of sort of, I suppose, preempted it. I don't know, but I just said, I can't do it. I can't do that. I need to be on the go all the time. And just that silence and that darkness on top of a brain that can be quite dark anyway at times was a lot. So I'm kind of backwards and forwards, but it is hospitality. I know has like, and what you guys do is just blows my mind. Like, you're just so needed in the hospitality industry. Like, there's such a high rate of mental health and things like that. And I get it, and I understand it, and you can see why. And I mean, I don't even do what proper chefs do and things like that. And yeah, just sort of the work and to, I don't know, help is invaluable, because it's tough. It's fucking tough. And this year, my God, it's like heartbreaking, like literally heartbreaking this year.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, I couldn't do it. I've always said since day dot, I've worked with chefs, and I've worked with thousands of chefs over the last 12 years. There's no way. I mean, I've got the utmost respect for anyone that works within hospitality, back of house, front of house. I've worked in bars, busy bars down in Bournemouth, and I know what a 12-hour shift behind a bar in Bournemouth is like. And that's only for 2 or 3 days a week, let alone doing that 7 days back to back. Just no let up. Like, no. You need to be superhuman to work in this trade, I think.
Yeah. And I think it takes a special kind of person. I mean, I was a bloody secondary school teacher. So, I mean, I've gone from like one thing to kind of another, like running my own business and things like that. And I mean, I'm so fortunate. I'm so lucky to do something I love. But I think where I suppose, and people might, and I have this massive imposter syndrome as well, which you'll probably sort of talk down at myself all the time about, like, but it just, even I can't imagine having to, in a little way, because obviously I have the pub and that was our choice, and to move through with that and running a business with my brother, who is great. And I know is so stressed at the moment trying to kind of get everything done. And that's difficult on my side, because I'm not a builder. I mean, I can put together some flat pack, not a problem. I'm very good at hitting stuff and screwing things in and stuff like that. But it's hard, and I hear him stressed, and my kind of stuff comes from the background, and I can fill a space and I can make things beautiful like we did with the pub. And I think sometimes people think that when you take on something, you've got investors or someone else has paid for it and someone else is ploughing money into it. But no, this is ours. We did this all ourselves. This is all our money. This is all our hard work. My brother and my dad and his like pals and stuff, who are different tradesmen, did all the bits and pieces in the pub. We chose the paint. We went and picked all the antiques, all the furniture. We did absolutely everything ourselves, and we still are. And and people have been doing, like chefs and people have been doing that their whole lives. And then imagine this year, then that all just comes crashing down. They have to pass that over and just go, we can't do it anymore. It's just a lot. And just, I just can't. Obviously I can imagine it because I feel it, and it's just so much. It's just so much. And on top of that, you open, and then like you say, you got your 7 days a week. You're dealing with interesting customers. I think my patients are a little bit, I don't know, actually, I say my patients are higher. The guys at the pub would be like, no. I stopped answering the phone after a while because I couldn't deal with some of the requests. So, no, someone else is going to have to do that.
But then that's not too bad, is it? We've become overly accommodating. Like, as hospitality, I was chatting to Claire Smith the other day, and she was saying, like, we need to put things into perspective. At the end of the day, we're cooking food for rich people. Like, does it really matter if we're busting a gut and we're slaving and we are giving everything just to put some food on a plate for some people who want to eat? Like, when you put
Honestly, it blows my mind, and I don't think I'll ever get used to people and their requests. It's the same as being a teacher. I don't ever think I would have ever got used to kids. And I was a secondary school teacher. I was a head of year, so it was behaviour. I mean, stuff they did was unreal sometimes. So I'd be like, what are you doing? And then working in special needs departments, so I can understand different behaviours and things like that. And still, I meet people, and I'm like, oh, yeah. What I'm gonna do is I'll be back in a minute, and I walk into the kitchen, and I'm just like,
what the fuck?
Okay, like what? But I just laugh. I laugh all the time. I have to. I laugh so much. Probably quite inappropriate, but all you'll hear is me cackling. I did it on Bake Off. I do it now. I laugh continuously because I'm also like, I laugh at myself. So I'm like, oh gosh. Okay, come on.
But then I think we're surrounded by that, though, aren't we? We are. So you have to have a sense of humour to work in hospitality, right? Because if you don't,
for sure.
Like, mental health issues aside, I think we'd be fucking crazy. Like, it would be
honestly
crazy,
rocking backwards and forwards. I mean, I do that regularly, but yeah, that's just for fun. But no, it's so true, and I think it's really important as well to surround yourself with a good team. Like, we don't at the pub. We're not. I'm probably not a great boss because I hate confrontation. We have had issues with various like chefs and things like that. And I remember when we first opened, I remember ringing Tom Kerridge. I'm lucky. I'm so honestly, like, it was like name dropping, but I'm so lucky in that something I love to do has become to a point where I'm able to do it, but also people I've looked up to and watched and read and followed and just waited on what they're doing next. Have become really good friends, and Tom and his wife Beth have become really good friends. And I remember ringing him when we'd just opened and just sobbing down the phone going, what do I do about this? And he's like, mate, you're going to have to come on, mate, listen, you've got to take charge. And I was like, okay, right. He's like, right, would you stand for that? No, I wouldn't. And yeah, and just him giving his time to sort of talk me up, and I have to do that. But then Ben's a bit better like that. Ben's kind of bit direct, like, have you done this? Needs to be done now. That's my brother. And then I'm a bit like, da, 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 da. And he's like, have you done that? I'm like, yeah, just doing it. And he's like, you're not. And I'm like, fuck, I meant to do that.
It's personality types, though, isn't it? Like, so, and I also think it is learned as well. Like, I used to be very much the same. I mean, I ran a sales team, and so during that process of when I first started getting into management, it was a case of like, do you mind if you just do this thing for me? Like, don't worry if you don't get round to it, but if you do it, like, that'd be great. And then in the end, I ended up just something clicked, and I was like, look, mate, I just need this done, and I need it done by this date and this way. If you don't do it, and then I think once that, I mean, that feels way out of your comfort zone, but once you get used to that, then you start to learn the right way of being able to say these sort of things, but it never gets easier.
No,
Never.
It doesn't. And like, we've gone from sort of a really big team, and there are differences and things like that. And I'd hate to feel that anyone kind of thought badly of me or anything like that. But sometimes obviously stuff doesn't work, and sometimes people do like it kind of doesn't work out. But we've got a really small team now who have worked really hard, and I mean, they absolutely rip me. They rip the piss out of me, and I'm just like, okay. And I mean, some, like, we've got like the staff and things like that are just great. Like some of the younger girls that work for us. I mean, I was behind the bar one day when the pub was open, and I wear, like I said to you, I wear a lot of dungarees, I wear a lot of all-in-one, and one of these was brown corduroy. I mean, it sounds very sexy, I know. And she'd lost her earring. So I'm on my hands and knees behind the bar looking for one of the bar staff's earrings. And she came round and she went like that. And she went, oh, and started laughing. I went, what are you laughing at? She went, I thought you were a big dog behind the bar. I was going to stroke you. I was like, I'm looking for your earring.
Yeah.
She was just like, I thought you were a dog. And I was like, thank you. Yeah, sure. Looking for your earring on my hands and knees.
How many managers not only are on their hands and knees for their staff, but also getting stroked and patted at the same time?
I know.
Right?
I'm so lucky, but I wouldn't change it. We're like a little family, and they just work so hard even through this, and I like trust them implicitly, and it's great, and it's so important. I've said it through all jobs. If you need to do something that you enjoy, because if you dread doing something, then you spend so much of your time working. There's no point in doing it.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing actually, because you say you've changed your roles quite frequently, and your roles have been like, they've been to one extreme to the other. Like,
Yeah.
what was it that got you changing?
As in from sort of PE teaching to food, or?
Yeah, I mean, you went from PE teaching to, you said you were a flight attendant.
Yeah, well, let's say I did flight attendant. Yeah, so that was way back. That was just after uni. So I've got a degree in sport and PE. Just basically anything that would require me not to sit down and not to sit still. And I loved everything about flying. Like, we were really lucky growing up. Mum and Dad used to take us on really lovely holidays, and I was obsessed with the flight attendants and used to know the maneuvers off by heart and things like that. So coming out of uni, I was like, I'm not 100% sure what I want to do. It'll probably be into teaching, but I'm going to give this a go. I lasted it was, oh God. I mean, if you think people are interesting, put them on an aeroplane
And lock them in.
Oh my gosh, I've never known anything like it. I got a written warning for having an unruly bun. I think when that happened, I went, yeah, this is probably not the job for me.
An unruly bun, as in like a hairdo?
Yeah, not a bread bun this time, as in a hairdo. Yeah, my bun was unruly. So I did that, and then like worked in the gym and things like that. And then, just went into teaching, and I did a GTP. So again, I didn't go back to uni. I learned sort of on the job in a school. Again, just anything I could do, which I think is very kind of apparent kind of in my brain, the not having to sit still. So PE teacher, and then head a year, and then special needs for the last couple of years. But food has always been there. I've always loved cooking. I've always loved baking. My nan was an incredible cook, an incredible baker. Spent a lot of time with her growing up. Just Bake Off came along, and it just changed everything, just incredibly. I didn't ever expect it, imagine it, and I have no expectations, because I think sometimes if you have expectations, you get let down, and that can be quite sad. So it's nice to think about things, but if you don't expect it, if you don't get it, you never had it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Don't get yourself hyped up about it.
I just every opportunity that comes my way, I only do things I completely and utterly can throw myself into. I believe in, I completely absorb myself in, and just the food and the pub and just everything. It's all, the pub is what I have. I don't have my own house. I drive a teeny tiny little car, but I have my pub, and that's what I have. And it is, me and my brother have worked really, really hard, and I am like I feel really proud of him, because he's just, what he can do, his vision, him and my dad able to kind of take this vision of what it is and then build around it. And like I said, we're having this extension built, which is just going to be beautiful. They've declined my help to build things or knock things down at the moment, but I'm hoping there's something for me to hit this weekend.
Yeah, perhaps they could put a tiny little wall up in the background just so you can
give me a
down.
sledgehammer. Yeah. But it'd be good. It's just just mental, really. That this year kind of is just, it was about a year to the day of us reopening, and we started talking about the possibility of doing a year's anniversary party, and then we went into lockdown, and that was literally a year to the day, and we were like, oh shit, okay. But
Madness. And how was it doing?
Doing really well. Yeah, we were doing great. We'd had a sort of really good year. Like I say, we're really lucky because it is in a beautiful little village of Eversholt. I mean, there is nothing. And when I say there's nothing, people go, "Oh yeah." Then they come and see it, and they're like, "There's not even a shop." And I'm like, "No, there's nothing." So there's a church opposite, a cricket green, a Lido randomly, and a little village hall. But it's on like walking routes and cycling routes, and it's just beautiful. And we really wanted to make it kind of like a destination pub, and it's not a restaurant. And I really kind of try and say, like, it's not a restaurant. Oh, can we sit in the restaurant area? And we're like, it's a pub. And we have had sort of people go, well, we came for a meal on Friday. It was very loud. We're like, it's a Friday night. It's a village pub. Like, I'm not going to make any apologies for that. I'd rather it be like that than stone cold silence. And it's great. We've worked really hard on it, and it was doing really, really well. So to have to adapt, and we did adapt quite quickly. This time's been worse because it's been absolutely dead, which has been difficult. But I think that's everywhere. I don't think anyone expected it to kind of go on this long, but you adapt, you listen, and you one foot in front of the other most of the time. So
have you put any changes, or are you likely to change the way in which you operate off the back of this quieter period? Have you identified anything?
So I think we're working with a smaller team for sure. So smaller team, because actually a smaller team working at 100% is a bigger team working at kind of 60, 70% kind of thing. And that's kind of what we want. It should be a case of everyone and just people knowing kind of job roles and stuff like that. Because it has the potential to be incredible. It's such a beautiful place, and it's people kind of come in and they love everything, kind of down to the toilets and the bathrooms and stuff, which was what my brother used to do kitchen and bathrooms, and so they're stunning. And it's just keeping true to ourselves as well. I don't want to go down the route of changing things. It's a small menu which is changed regularly. Everything's cooked fresh. So it takes a little bit longer to cook because nothing's coming out the freezer, nothing's pre-made or anything like that. So just kind of understanding that what we do, and you don't have to follow kind of trends and things like that. And I think that's really, really important. But just listening and moving with times, listening to feedback, taking feedback on, but actually not bowing to, I don't know, other bits and pieces.
It's tricky as a business owner as well, because you get a lot of, should we say, a lot of customers who think they know how to run a business, and they also know what should be on the menu and how to be done. And then ultimately, you could bow and bend to fit everyone's requests. But 9 times out of 10, those people who wanted that particular bavette steak on are the people who aren't going to order the bloody thing in the first place. So you have to go with your own design, your own vision,
and it is.
Hope that other people like it.
I think it's important to explain. We had one of the things in lockdown was someone emailed to say sort of some of the food that was sent out, about like the cost of it and how it came and things like that. And I'm not kind of one to, I don't have confrontation, but at that point when we were struggling to get, that's when it was really bad. We were struggling to get produce in. I'd order stuff and the next day some of it would turn up, or a variation of something would turn up, and we were having to work with what we got because that was when everything was shut. And we are in the middle of nowhere. Things were coming in. I know the farmers were really struggling as well. So anything that was coming from the farm shops and stuff maybe wasn't. The potatoes were really, really sugary. So the chips were darker than they were normally because of the high sugar and the high water. And then I actually sat down this day and I just wrote this lady an email and just literally went through the whole thing. She never got back to me, but I just thought I needed to say that. I needed to say, please understand, this is the reason for this cost. This is the reason why the chips are darker. This is the reason, blah, 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 blah. And it's not making excuses, but I just felt at that point and sometimes I feel like I need to explain myself, and I get myself, but that's my brain. I get myself in a bit of a pickle where I'm like, oh God, I don't want them to upset. I don't want them to feel bad at me. But actually, please understand that I'm on my arse here. Like, I'm being scraped off the floor most mornings, and we are really, the three of us are doing the very, very best we can. And like, these are the reasons why we're in the middle of a lockdown. We're in the middle of an absolute shitstorm that nobody really knew what was going on at that point, apart from you cannot do a thing. You can't lick people. You can't touch people.
All the things I miss.
I can't wait to lick
and
people
touching.
again. And yeah, it was just, I just felt kind of the need to just explain the reasons for these things. But it's just one of the things with hospitality. You always get someone who has worked. I used to work in hospitality. I know hospitality, and you kind of go, okay. But it's just, you listen, you move on, you take it. And the trouble is I take everything to heart, and I've got no line between being angry and just bursting into tears. And my brother's always like, don't take everything to heart. I'm like, okay. Like, I'm fine. Yeah.
Hard though.
I'm fine.
It's hard, especially when you've ploughed your time, your effort, your emotion, your energy. And I think, that's reciprocated across the entire industry. If you work in this game, you throw everything into it, and it's hard not to take offense.
It's passion, isn't it? You don't do it unless you're passionate. I don't think anybody would willingly do things like that if they weren't completely and utterly passionate, full 100% in it. I don't think they would do that. No one would choose to have that worry and that panic of how's it going to be through choice. It's hard work, but it's complete and utter passion. I say if you're not getting upset, if you're not concerned, if you're not nervous on a day-to-day basis, you don't care enough. Well, that's me.
No, you're completely right. I mean, I've been in some, I think all of us have been in these jobs where you just think to yourself, I can't be asked anymore. And you get in. And then, in fact, actually, when you don't care and when you are bored, then for me, that's when my depression kicked in as well. When I'm sat there bored, I start yawning, and then that yawning comes into boredom. Then I start causing fights and arguments just because I want a bit of excitement in life,
Or my depression can manifest itself. Like I had a really bad week last week. I did last week or the week before I did a live. So I did a live bake along, and I don't know, I hadn't done one for a while, but for me, I don't know, something in me was just like, I don't think that was good enough. And then there's just this internal argument, which then just set me down here. And because I was so bothered, and the feedback was great and people loved it, but this internal argument with me that it wasn't good enough, but it just shows that I completely and utterly care. But that set me down low, but I had nothing then afterwards to kind of move on with, because we are inside. And I think that's what I'm struggling with this time, is the boredom. I'm fucking eating everything I can get my hands on, like everything like stuff I don't even like, I'm eating it. I'm but just boredom as well. And if I have to go for another fucking walk, I'm going to, I don't know, walking. What are you doing today? I'm going for a walk. What are you doing today? Oh, I'm going for a walk. Funny that, yeah.
Yeah. But then you get excited because you're like, it's Thursday today. In 2 days' time, we've got the weekend. What am I going to
I'm going to go for a walk.
For a walk. I might make it an extra hour this time.
And I take the bloody dog, who's a complete prick. So what should be a nice relaxing walk, I spend the whole time trying to stop him attacking cyclists, screaming at birds and anything that moves. So it's like, it's not even a nice walk. It's bloody stressful.
It's not like you can put your walking boots on and just stomp, is it?
I have to stomp, pulling this naughty rescue sort of 4.5-legged pug who thinks he's a Rottweiler. He's a donut, he really is. But they're great. They are my little comfort blanket when times are a bit shit.
Yeah, especially with lap dogs as well. I've got a pug cross with a border terrier, and he's every morning he'll jump up into bed, right, and he'll cuddle with you and underneath the duvets. And I trained border collies. So I used to have agility border collies. So we would never allow them in the house, let alone
under the cover.
Bed.
Yeah,
so we've got this little under the cover, but he's getting old now. So 11. I took him for a quick 5K the other day, and I looked behind me. I was like, "Fuck, I've lost the dog." And I look back over the field, and he's miles away. He's just plodding along at his own merry way, and I'm like, it's just not quite the same. It's not the blast that you need, really, is it? And
then I've got Sybil, who is another rescue, but she's 3-legged, blind in one eye. I think the other eye's going as well. She was using puppy farming, so she walks for a bit, and then I've got a sling to carry her in because she can't walk that far. So I'm literally like the crazy dog lady. I've got one of them screaming and shouting at everything that moves, and I've got Sybil trotting along behind, and then she's like, "Oh, pick me up, pick me up." So then I'm walking along, and he's screaming, and then you got to stop and pick up poo, and she's grumbling because she's in this sling, and it's just like, this was really, really relaxing. This was lovely. And people are going, your dog's got a bad leg, and I'm like, she's disabled, she's fine, bless her, she's just having a little wander, I'm going to pick her up in a minute. And then I look round, she's way back, and she's just sat there, and I'm like, I'm over here, like making myself all big, like, Sybil, I'm here. And she's like, oh, and trots over.
Yeah, I know. Well, mine's going deaf at the moment as well, so I can't even call him. When he's over there, it's like,
I'll just wait for him to come. You wouldn't be without him though. Like, and the same, we've always grown up with dogs in the pub and things like that. So they wander around the pub and they all know. And I'm like, where is Albus? And he's sat next to someone's table. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. They're like, he's fine. They're like feeding him shortbread. And I'm like, okay, his behaviour's going to be bad tonight.
Yeah. After all that sugar. But just going back to your point very quickly about you saying you get imposter syndrome and you think you haven't done things well enough. So I used to have that so badly. And the thing that got it out for me was like a paradigm shift, like a perception tilt. And I suddenly started thinking, like, if I was watching me or if I was involved with that conversation or that piece of work and I didn't know me, would I have done any differently? Yeah. And I wouldn't have done. And then once I started thinking like that, over a period of a couple of years, I actually trained myself to realize that it's like a piece of art or like a plate. You put that final little dash on top of that cake or whatever it might be, because, it looks better that way. But the person hasn't seen the 4 or 5 different changes you made beforehand to know the difference. And I found that just being able to do that and start to learn to do that has been hugely beneficial.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because you can have all these achievements and you can come through stuff and you're still like your own worst enemy. Like for me, like I did Bake Off battling just this horrible, awful imposter syndrome, this anxiety, this depression that was just crippling at times, that would like not make me sleep beforehand. And I did that with not telling anybody, and I just did it. And then people were like being mean about my face and how I pout and how I was this, but that was like this mask of terror. And I wear lipstick and I wear makeup, and I will try and make a real effort. Mum always said to me, she was like a proper landlady, don't ever underdress. All right, Mum, got that. Like a proper like Peggy Mitchell, Barbara Windsor, and my heart just breaks. So I always kind of will dress up, and this lipstick was like a real suit of armor for me, that okay, I'm fine, I can do this. And I had this kind of here and this kind of stillness, and I've had it my whole life, but I was doing all of that, and I was doing something that was so terrifying, and my friends and family were like, can you deal with this? Can you cope with this? But I was like, I can, because I don't know, I thrive off this pressure sometimes. But then when things did go wrong, it was like, tears and panic of, I'm not good enough. I told you it's not good enough. And that is, I still battle with that now. And my second book, it's 4 years down the line. I did my first one, Comfort, which was just, I was so proud of it to come out of Bake Off and then have a book and then write this book. And then 4 years down the line, I've written another one. So in the middle of everything, so lockdown and the shit year I had and just everything that was going on, I wrote this second book, Happy Cooking, and it's me laid bare, and I'm fucking terrified. Like, I can't tell you how terrified I am to people see me completely laid bare, because that is me. I think people take things on face value, and I did go on a show and I did go on a national and everything like that, but actually everything I do I work so hard for, and I am battling my own kind of stuff for very various different reasons. And yeah, I'm so proud of this book, because it's a step up from what I've been doing. Like, my food is better, my cooking is better, and just everything about it. It's just, it's beautifully shot and everything, but it's me completely brutally honest. Like, this is me. You see me as, I suppose, this confident, really. And then you've also got this complete and utter. Last year, my brother and Sophie and a couple of my mates literally, they were scraping. Well, not my mates weren't scraping me off the floor because they couldn't fucking see me, but they kept me going. Like, I can't. like it's so fucking hard, like that your brain can be so incredible sometimes. It allowed me to do and has allowed me to do the most amazing things, but my God, is my brain horrible to me at times. And this real weird imbalance of this new book coming out, I'm feeling so proud but also terrified, to the point where when I announced it end of 17th of Feb, whenever it was, I didn't really talk for 2 days because I just went completely into myself. And it's hard not to get, it's just, I don't know, your brain's, it's a tough one. And then the added stresses of everything. And I suppose with lots of different jobs, but I suppose hospitality, and after this year, it's everything. And I'm not even alongside sort of the big hitters and the main players and stuff like that, but it's just, and that's what I think what you do is just so incredible, and your support and what you offer for people is just brilliant. And obviously I came across you guys, just over a year. I came across you over a year ago. And
it was still sunny back then.
And just, I just think it's so important to have that support and actually to talk and for people to go to and stuff like that, because actually for a very long time I didn't speak about it, and a lot of it was shame. And actually it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm like this, and I have to remind myself sometimes, and it's not my fault. And it's something I think I'll always battle with, and I think probably people in the same way, probably you will as well. You battle, you have days when you're like boom, 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 and other days you're like, for fuck's sake, like why? And it just blows my mind sometimes. The thing that is so capable of enabling you to do amazing things can also really let you down sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole reason why I started, because for years, similarly to you, I was having these internal conflicts. And the conflicts were so bad, and you trash talk yourself to such an extent. And you look around at people, and you look at, you're not necessarily you, but you might look at yourself on TV and go, God, I wish I could be confident like that. And you picture it in your head that these people just have these vacuums, these black empty spaces where they just go, right, today I'm going for a walk, and off they go in peace and quiet with their brain. And it wasn't until I ended up getting most recently, I was 29, so 5 years ago, when I went to a cognitive behavioural therapist, I was like, I'm broken, I'm damaged. I've got these thoughts going through my head. I think that was about the same time
I was diagnosed as well, actually. About that amount of time ago.
But it takes someone else, it takes someone who's, costing you a small fortune, because you have to go privately, of course, because the NHS can't do it at the moment, to be able to say to you, do you think that everyone else walks around with nothing going on in their head? I'm like, I want to be like them. They're like, well, it's impossible, because that doesn't happen. And then once you get that little glimpse behind it, that's why these photos, and eventually we'll get you shot as well, but that's why these photos came out.
Because honestly, I spend so much time looking at those, because I just think they're just so powerful. And I think that's probably one of the first things I said to you, didn't I? It was like, they're so emotive and so powerful. And I think that shade, that dark to light, and that little bit in between where you can either stay in that dark bit or you can actually push over and just, okay, this is actually the good bit. This is what you see. And actually, I do think massive for you, because I just think what you do is just bloody brilliant. Even if they did get a picture of me picking up dog shit with a blue rubber glove, it was so amazing, good, honestly. So good. After all that shit, I was like, literally have that. Like, you can have that one. It wasn't a poo bag, it was a blue rubber glove, because I ran out of bags.
I just, all the time, and the way I get this message, and I turn around to a mate of mine, I said, Candice Brown from Bake Off just messaged me, and I was like, what's this about? I was like, fucking hell, she's wearing one of our t-shirts in the Daily Mail picking up dog shit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That was class. Thank you.
That's me all over, if I'm honest. Class.
What else can we get? I would say, if there's anything more extreme, can we get you skydiving?
Sure.
Wearing
just the chef denim. Bit breezy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I'll send you through. I'll send you through one of the denim chef's jackets, and you just cover that in Cover that in handprints. Yeah, we could have a new range, or we could just, I don't know, auction it off or something.
Just mess, continual mess everywhere.
Madness. So, what have you found then, other than baking? What have you found that helps you manage those voices and other than staying active?
So baking is my go-to. It's interesting how when people see me bake and people see me in my flow, they're like, fucking hell, like it's like a different person. It completely all consumes me, and this is kind of what I speak about sort of in the book, this all consuming, this, it is my happy place. It is my thing that I do when I'm sad, when I'm stressed, when I'm angry, when I'm happy, when I just need something. So that's probably that, like whether I go for a walk, or one of the things I do at the moment quite a lot is Lego, which sounds silly, but it's one of the only things that keeps my hands busy. It keeps my attention, and again keeps me quiet, because I think my brain it's firing all the time, and sometimes that's sort of anxiety, but also a lot with the ADHD, just continual, or I get a song that just goes round and round in my head, and then they're kind of like triggers for me where I know the anxiety is quite bad, because things will start just being a little bit repetitive. So that just these little things that kind of keep my attention. I love reading, and I love audiobooks. Funnily enough, I don't listen to a lot of music. I don't know if there's something in the repetitiveness of it, which I sometimes don't enjoy. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Just easy listening, really, like some Jane Fallon and things like that I listen to. And when I'm baking, I have things on in the background, so like series and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm a very, very good, I say time optimist. People say bumbler. So I can while away time, and I'm like, where the bloody hell did that hour go? And I've done fuck all.
That's so interesting.
And I'm like, oh, no, I got set up today with 36 minutes before. That's unheard of. I think probably because I'd missed 2 last week, but still, I was 36 minutes set up, ready to go.
Listen, firstly, it was only one you've missed, so I don't know where 2 came from. Cut yourself some slack.
No, it was the one I missed, but it was the one before when I just didn't even bother getting back, and I was just like, oh Christ, okay.
Don't worry. You're not. I don't own you. You're not accountable to me. Like, I wouldn't have known any different if you hadn't mentioned it either. So you go. It's interesting what you're saying about flow, though. You know what? I think everyone has like a flow state, right? They can get into, but I think that if you have had a mental illness, and I'm a true believer that not everyone has a mental illness for life, right? There are some of us who are more susceptible, like yourself or I, who, if perhaps our resilience isn't strong enough in a certain area, or things are getting upon us, then when we dip. But that flow state is so incredible, and it's probably the only time during a day or a night, whenever it comes in, that we just have complete, I can't explain it, but complete freedom of any thought, other than that creative flair. And you go into like this tunnel vision. I love it. And this is the Burnt Chef project is me in my flow state. I will come into this office, right? And I will 12 hours later, I'll come out again, not really knowing what's happened,
Yeah. Madness, it is. It's just like I say, you find these things, and I think everyone does have things. I think baking. I have to work. It probably comes as a surprise. I have to work really hard. I had to work hard at school. I had to work hard at uni. Nothing really comes naturally to me, but I just feel food. I love everything about it. I love the smell of it. I love how it feels, and I want to understand. And for me, I want to learn more all the time. So I'm always asking questions. I'm always learning. Excuse me. And it's just everything kind of, I feel my body kind of change. And if I'm baking or cooking with someone and I'm trying to sort of talk them through, and I'm watching how their hands are working with stuff, and I think, are my hands like that? But I don't know. And it's all encompassing, and it's just all consuming. And I love it. It's just one of those things that makes me talk.
If you are interested in audiobooks, Daniel Pink. Flow.
Okay.
So regarding what we were just talking about, check it out. It's all about it's all about flow, and it's also its impact on
Yeah.
mental health and well-being
Yeah.
as well. So it's well worth listening to.
You said a lot of other things. How do I kind of deal with it? Like, I do take medication as well. Like, are you still medicated, if you don't mind me asking? Do you have you medicated, or you're not? Or
No, I haven't. I mean, when I was quite really severely depressed when I was about 17, and I was like bedridden, depressed, couldn't, yeah, like I try and explain it to people and like what it was like, and it was like being in like a
yeah.
well, like literally at the bottom of a well with this tiny little bit of light, and going, I'm never going to reach that, and that was the vision I was having at that time as well. But even that, I was too young to know what was going on. Couldn't talk to anyone about it because I didn't know. But it took me 3 years to get out of that without any medication. But it was literally, I don't know what it was, this ability to be able to look at myself and go, right, this isn't going to solve itself overnight, but here's what you have to do. Tomorrow you're getting out of bed. And then the next day you're getting out of bed. And then the next day you might be able to go and step outside for a little bit without getting too panicky. And then I just started throwing myself into situations that started pushing me. And like, I was never a sociable person either. So I'd throw myself into a group of people and just force myself to have a conversation. But sorry, go on.
No, like it's just, it's interesting, isn't it? Because like I've like been on medication. So I wasn't like, I get like with you, if you don't mind me asking. So it's like, now I'm just like talking. Was it something that just came along with you? Just something just happened, and all of a sudden it was like, oh gosh, I'm like you say, it took you a few years to kind of work it out. Was it all of a sudden it was just that's how you felt, and you kind of fell into that?
I remember my first instance of real severe depression was I was sat in a French class in my secondary school, and a thought entered my head, and it was, what's the point in us being on planet Earth? And it sat there for a bit, and I sat there, and that entire lesson went by, and I don't remember any of the lesson. All I remember is me going, why are we here? And then that thought lasted for a week, and I just ruminated on it, and it sat, and eventually it went,
weird.
There's no point in life, and then that was it. I just crashed after
and
that.
There was nothing that brought that on. It just,
I was always quite a sensitive and thoughtful person. I think I've always been an overthinker, but something triggered it, and just that feeling of having no purpose in life and no value, and there was no point in me being here, sunk me so quickly. Like within the space of 6 months, I was skipping school, wasn't eating properly, wasn't looking after myself, couldn't even get out of bed, was in tears. This overwhelming, worthless feeling. Just from a thought.
Yeah. It's
probably hormones as well,
But like, it's funny as well. You kind of make you light of it. Like I had those when I was bad. I was being dragged out of the bed by my feet, like the duvet, and I was a teacher. I was like 30 years old and being pulled out of bed in the duvet, being thrown down the stairs. So I had nothing on the bed to stay in bed for, and stuff like that. But mine, like, I'd say fine. Obviously, we have our stuff and we have different things, but mine was, I think, brought on by trauma. So all of a sudden, I was like, I'm really struggling now. Like, and things that I used to enjoy, I'm now not enjoying, and I could just feel myself spiraling. And obviously, things do trigger it, and there were things when it was okay, and obviously different, like sort of trying different medications. But it took well over a year, and I was so adverse to trying medication, going on medication, because it felt like a massive, I don't know, like being defeated really, and having to rely on something else, which I hated. But actually, when if you've got, like, I've got just, well, like wheezing, I take an inhaler to stop myself wheezing. I wouldn't deny myself of that inhaler. So, and that was through therapy, understanding that actually, no, like, it's not your fault, and actually if you're in pain, you take something to relieve it or relieve that pain. So actually, why would you not medicate to thing me that? And then I get angry because I'm like, actually, well, it's not my fault that I'm like this has happened. But then I don't know, it's just a weird one, isn't it? Because obviously, and I've had to go through different medications. I've had medications that turned me into an absolute zombie, which was just worse than feeling shit, actually, because I just lost all sort of creativity and anything like that. And that's one thing I don't want to lose. As much as I am messy and chaotic and everything. I am creative and I'm wanting to learn and I want to think all the time. And as soon as that goes or anything impairs that, then I know I'm in serious trouble, because that's what I thrive on, and thriving on pressure and things, because that's the way my kind of chaotic, messy brain works. And it's the only time you get me concentrating is when you get 3.5 hours to build a fucking gingerbread pub. So that's when you do start concentrating. But yeah, it's funny how everyone's different thoughts or different reasons behind mental health, but actually there are some really common denominators, like you just saying about why we're here. I get these weird thoughts sometimes, or like I could be outside and all of a sudden I'm like, are we really here? Like, and that's such a weird fucking thought, Candice. What are you doing? But like you've just said, what's the point in being here? Planet Earth. Is Earth real? Are we really here? Is this like? And it's just like your brain just starts going off on one. It's just, yeah. But when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there. I mean, back in the day when I was smoking a lot more weed, it was these conversations were a lot more. They lasted a lot longer, but yeah, I mean, it's I think. I mean, it's not clinically proven, and I don't think what I'm saying has any grounding, but I definitely think that there are certain types of people on this planet who are quite active thinkers, and those who have got this wide perception in terms of why are we here? Are there life on other planets? What's the purpose? And really started to delve into these things, potentially have a higher predisposition to experiencing a mental illness, in the same way that people who are quite highly creative, like musicians and artists and
I agree
novelists
with
and
that. I think
I
think especially when you,
so it's a chicken and eggs.
Yeah, chicken and eggs. That's a funny question as well, isn't it? And I come up with these really weird questions and really weird things in my head as well. So I was asking that the other day about, and the chicken, and we went round and round and round, and then I was like, do chicken about the egg coming out of chicken's bum? Then it was like, don't come out his bum, and blah blah blah. Like, but it's just how my brain works. I was going to say something. Yeah, I will will often just sit and think, but I will ask questions all the time, and I want to know stuff, and I want to kind of learn, and just, I don't know, just take everything in. But one of the things I try and remain is just I try so hard to remain positive. And one of the things that you can, and I can 100% say about myself, is that I am kind and I am nice. And I think that's one thing. I have days where I might not shower, or I can't be asked to brush my teeth because my brain is just like, no, today you're not going to do that. Like, but I am nice and I am kind, and that's one thing that with sort of everything with mental health is that will never ever change. And if the day I ever turned horrible or nasty or was mean or anything like that, or unkind, then something has seriously gone wrong, and you can 100% cart me off and lock me up, because that's something I never ever want to not be. And I try, and I think at the moment as well, just trying to remain really positive, even now in amongst all this. I think it's so hard to get drawn into it's this and it's bad and the government, blah, blah, blah. And as much as obviously I've got my moans and groans, and I say, like, it's been so difficult and we've tried so hard, but I will say that, but then I'm like, right, okay, maybe this has happened for a reason. These are the reason for that. And I try and remain positive, because I think otherwise it can be all consuming. And one of the things I probably have had to do a little bit is disassociate myself from the whole situation with the pub, with the pandemic, with everything, because actually I think we're in danger of being all consumed by it. So actually that little bit of disassociation and just learning to go, okay, oh, that pub, it's shut. Yeah, that's my pub, but it's fine. It's shut for a while. We've had a leak. We've had to lift the floor up with a spade, but it's fine. Like, it's just like, okay, because otherwise I think it can be all consuming. I think that can be quite detrimental.
I think so. And like when this pandemic first came out, I was really leaning into it. I was looking at like the macro, like, how is this going to impact everyone? What's the long-term prognosis of this? How many people is it going to affect? And the more you try and lean into that and you question it, and it actually makes you feel like you're about to fall off the edge of a cliff. Like, your brain can't comprehend it. So sometimes, as you say, it's better to take a step back and go, look, it is what it is. I'm water. That's a rock. I'm going
Yep.
to flow around it, and I'm just going to go with the flow. Take the path of
Absolutely.
least
I love
resistance.
that.
Do what I need to do.
I am water, and that's a rock. I'm going to splash the fuck out of the rock on the way through, but I'm going to go around it. No, I like that, and I think
you'll break it down
exactly.
eventually.
Especially if it freezes, then you're in trouble. You shitty rock. But yeah, I think it's so important to just, like I say, I don't watch the news at the moment. I listen to what I'm told, or I find out what I need to know, and I go with that basically, rather than kind of trying to take everything in, because I think then my brain just go, oh no. But yeah, I'm even funny with like certain shows, like, you know, when you watch things, and as soon as there's any like bitchiness or meanness, I'm like, no, thank you, on to something else. And I'll watch something because it's just that negativity. I'm like, oh, don't really need that. I don't really like that. So I think it's a better place. And my brother says, I'd love to be in your brain sometimes. I went, yeah, it's all right sometimes. Sometimes it's shite, but other times when I'm just like, la, 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 it's great.
Yeah.
He's there pulling his hair out.
Do you find that do you find like when you have these thoughts, like you say, sometimes you get hooked on things, like a song, for example, or a particular thing? Do you find that you cannot rest until you've seen it out?
Benidorm, the programme Benidorm was the worst one. I mean, obsessed. Benidorm. Yes,
really?
That was in the first lockdown. Benidorm. I just poked myself in the eye. Benidorm. I've never seen it was awful. Did I watch every single episode? Yes. Could I do anything else? Could I think about anything else? Could I watch anything else? No. I had to finish Benidorm. And then also I've got this really weird thing with watching things and then not watching the last episode or the last 2 episodes. I've watched all of The Sopranos, not seen the last episode. Watched all of Game of Thrones, not seen the last 2 episodes. Don't tell me what happens because I still don't know. What else I haven't seen the last of? I've not finished Jane the Virgin. I've watched all of that. I don't know what it is. Yeah. So yeah, in the answer to your question, yes.
I love it. I mean, for me, mine. I'm the same. So certain Netflix shows, like, you know, I get hooked on some right
odd ones.
Well, it's been defined as crap. Yeah, but like I'll absorb myself. But it's other small things. Like for me, I stumbled across cryptocurrency a year ago, right, and started investing. But rather than just throwing some money in and leaving it, I spent hours. I mean, hours. Every spare moment, whilst I was walking the dog, whilst I was sat having my tea, just learning.
Really?
Like,
oh wow!
Throwing myself into as much. Couldn't let it go. And it was like photography. In fact, it's like the Burnt Chef project. Everything I've been obsessed with, I've tried to angle, if you like. Unfortunately, some Netflix shows can't be angled.
I'm not sure I can angle Benidorm into anything, but I'll keep trying.
Benidorm. I reckon there'll be a hotel. There'll be a Candice hotel in Benidorm in the next 4 years.
Oh my God. I know. Special guest.
That would be cool.
So, yeah, it could work. But at least it's like, yeah, I get the same with songs. Songs will go around in my head. But I had a particularly bad one when it was, I mean, not bad because I still quite like them and I used to see them a lot, was Shakin' Stevens' The Wanderer. I mean, that was interesting for quite a while. Round and round and round. And it's interesting because I said this on when I spoke to Frankie, and a couple of people messaged me going, "So it's really interesting," because I get that as well. I've not had I've not had Status Quo yet, but yeah, that kind of. So it's interesting you say that. I say our brains are all different, and we all do things differently, and there are so many things with mental health. But actually, there are these really weird little similarities that you can kind of go, yeah, in a weird similar way.
Yeah. Well, one of the other books that that got me off on this journey that I listened to, again, obsessively, I listened to it 3 times back to back. And it's, again, not clinical, but it's done by a guy called Johann Hari. He wrote a book called Lost Connections, and he was a Guardian journalist, went on a 44,000-mile trip basically to understand depression because he was taking antidepressants and they were losing their effectiveness. So he was taking more and more, and then he started to bloat and put on weight, and he was just like, what's the point in this? So he went on a little journey. And long story short, he came across different situations during this journey, but he came to the conclusion that there were 9 reasons for depression and anxiety, right? 2 of those were biological. So childhood trauma and biology, right? The other 7 were down to lost connections, things that we were missing in our environment that our bodies were reacting to. And it was talking about things like, when a monkey is knocked out of its top, like, alpha position, right? Then there's a biological change inside that monkey that makes that monkey start to spend more time away from its pack. As it spends more time away from its pack, it feels less secure, which increases its stress hormones, which then actually shortens its lifespan. And it's all of these sort of so it's basically saying that we as human beings need security and we need to feel like we belong. And if we don't feel like we belong, then actually biologically, things like anxiety and depression start to flare up. And that for me was like, just got me thinking. So if you're in for a book,
Johan Hari. I feel really sorry for the monkey as well.
Oh, well, natural selection.
Oh, I don't deal well with stuff like that. I can't watch anything with animals in it. Jeez. 1, because the dog goes apeshit at the telly, but 2, it's always going to be sad and I can't deal with it. Well, maybe I should work in a zoo.
Do you do? Oh, don't. I did work experience at a vet.
Oh, gosh.
I was dead set on being a vet.
No, thank you. No, thanks. So we work in hospitality instead. Yay!
Yeah, I know. Crazy. It is crazy. And again, chicken and egg scenario. Do you have to have a mental health issue to work in hospitality, or is hospitality the cause of your mental health issue?
Well, I would imagine you have probably a very interesting perception on that, probably from how you're speaking and all the various, the work and stuff you've done. Interesting.
Yeah, I think naturally creative people gravitate towards hospitality for what it is.
100%.
But I think that also, having done studies and I've done a diploma in become a stress reduction trainer, and having looked at these stats and the impact that stress has on our long-term mental health, I think that if you didn't have mental health issues, then you're probably more likely to have them through working 80-hour weeks. But
it's funny. Yeah, we still do it. People still do it. And again, that's that passion and that love. It's it's an interesting one, isn't it? It is a very interesting one.
I appreciate you're probably a very busy lady. I say that based on what we've just discussed. Probably, maybe not at the moment with COVID, but we're getting back to it.
We are.
You've got planning to do.
So extension pushing on, talking booths, and my brother and that are meeting people about booths, and we're talking about the garden menu, because obviously it'd be garden first, and luckily we have that space. Stuff with the book. And no, I have been really lucky, actually. I've been really, really lucky to work, because I think it would have been a really different situation if I hadn't been able to work last year. I think I'd be in a very, very different position mentally. I mean, good days, bad days, but work, I need to work. I love working. I love to keep busy. I love to push myself. So I'm very, very lucky for that. And I have to remind myself of that a lot. But I know I am lucky. I'm very, very grateful. And just obviously to do bits and pieces like this as well. I just feel, and I just think it's about being grateful as well. I think really, really important to be grateful, and I am grateful and very, very lucky and things like that. And it's just the case you work with everything else, don't you? It's one foot in front of the other a lot of the time.
If you were to give some advice to your 16-year-old self, what would it be?
I always say this: you've only got one you, so don't ever change. Don't ever think that you isn't good enough, because actually it is, because there's only you, and that is good enough. And I think trust yourself as well, and trust processes, and just be brave, because actually braveness does pay off, and actually you are stronger than you think, stronger than you realize, and actually you don't have to be the best to succeed, because hard work pays off. So if you work as hard as you can, and you know that you've worked hard, no one can ever take that away from you, whether you finish last, whether you finished middle, second, first, or whatever. If you've worked hard and you've put everything into that, no one can ever take that away from you.
Great advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've really, really enjoyed this, and thank you for all your hard work and everything that you do and the support that you give, and the resources and everything, because it is invaluable. And I hope you do realise that as well, because I think it's so important. But I appreciate what you're doing, and I know a lot of other people do as well. So well done, and thank you to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And if there's anything you want to see at any particular stage, or whether it be resources or training, we're about to launch the Burnt Chef Academy, the app, so that your staff have got online training modules that they can do to do with health, well-being. But if there's anything in particular you think actually could be looking at this, then let us know and I'll build it.
That. I think that's a great idea. And anything that I can do to help or support, then you know where I am as well. Picking up dog shit in merchandise, I'm your girl.
Okay, done. Right, you're on. Perhaps we could do a sponsored dog poo pickup.
I mean, brilliant. Dog poo bags. Poo bags with the chef hat on.
God, is there anything worse, honestly? Perks of owning an animal, isn't it, really? But Candice, listen, you've been an absolute legend. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
If people wanted to purchase your book, where could they get it?
So you can pre-order at the moment. It's out on the 1st of July. It's Happy Cooking, but you can pre-order on Amazon, Happy Foodie. So very, very proud of it. Very scared. But again, talking about our funny little brains and food and why the two work so well together.
I'm sure it will do amazingly. Good on you. Well done. Thanks for that. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yes, I will speak to you very, very soon. Take care.
All right. See you later. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Burnt Chef Journal. If you wanted to learn more about the Burnt Chef Project, head over to our website, www.theburnchefproject.com, where you'll find a whole host of resources and information relating to well-being and mental health within hospitality. Whilst you're there, why not visit our shop and support us by purchasing some branded merchandise, which we then use the profits to fund our ongoing work in destigmatizing mental health within the hospitality industry. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.